Going to call the November 19th, 2024 regular council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Myers.
Here.
Deshawn.
Here.
Shireman.
Here.
Moritz.
Here.
Sherrick.
Here.
Hickman.
Here.
Me.
You have the November 4, 2024 regular council meeting minutes before you. Does anybody have any questions about them? I need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Hickman made the motion. Mr. Moritz seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You also have the November 7th special council meeting minutes. Does anybody have questions regarding those? I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers made the motion. Ms. Sherrick seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? First up, we have Kevin Detray and Ben Cooley for the airport.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I want to talk a little bit about the grants, the federal grants. There's traditionally been the one federal grant, which is the AIP, the Airport Improvement Program. We get $150,000 every year from the FAA. That can accumulate up to $600,000, and then you lose it on the back end. So we've used that in the past for a lot of maintenance and a lot of good projects at the airport. During the COVID and the bipartisan legislation that was passed, there's a AIG program now, which will give us, and has been, about the same amount. It'll vary a little bit from 150. It could be as low as 140, maybe up to 160, but it'll be right in that 150 range on the average. So myself and the Airport Commission are looking at, for fiscal year 2025, the project to be done is to do a slurry seal or top coat or whatever you want to call it to the runway. The new runway was put in 2017. The asphalt's still in good condition, but it's getting bleached. The markings are hard to see, the paint and so forth. So what we would like to do is request legislation, or request whatever you have to do here. The engineering estimate on this project is $395,000, of which the city would be responsible for 5% of that. The rest would be covered by the FAA. So that's kind of what we're looking for at this particular time for the project. So if that could be somehow referred to committee, so we could get, if everybody's in agreement, get the legislation, excuse me. So for Crawford Murphy and Tilley to enter into contract with Crawford Murphy and Tilley to design, advertise, and construct the project. Any questions?
Mr. Myers?
I would like to make a motion to refer, I'm going to ask, that'll go to Finance and Public Lands?
Or service?
Or Service, that's what I was just asking Brandon.
I think airport stuff's always been in service, possibly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in service, yeah.
Not Public Lands, just Finance and Service? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to refer the airport grant project for the 2025 fiscal year to Finance and Service.
I'll second.
A motion has been made to refer airport grants for 2025 to Finance and Service. Mr. Myers made the motion. Mr. Hickman seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Is that it?
One more thing. before Ben comes up. There was another program that was born out of COVID called the Airport Terminal Program. And what the FAA got or set aside was $1 billion a year for airport terminal improvements or reconstruction or construction. Now, the bulk majority of that went to the scheduled air carrier airports, Columbus, Cleveland, Toledo, and so forth. There's $100 million that's been appropriated for general aviation airports, which is any airport that's not a scheduled air carrier airport. We put our terminal building that we have right now, I think it was built back in the 30s or 40s, it's antiquated. It sits too close to the taxiway to comply with the current regulations. We put an application in 2 years ago and 1 year ago for these ATP grants. We were denied. This year we were accepted. The engineering estimate it's a $2 million project, of which the FAA would pay 95% of that. Now, and what this isn't something that we need to decide tonight. I'm just giving an explanation on it. But then there's some further caveats on that. So I'm going to turn that over to Ben concerning the airport terminal program, unless anybody has any questions for me. That's good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. I do have some pictures because this does get a little, I did want to go into a little bit of the details quickly without, talking over anyone's head. So can I hand out a couple exhibits and show you guys what we're talking about here? So what Kevin didn't mention was it is a very competitive program, the ATP program. We've been trying for multiple years, as he mentioned. This is the 4th year out of 5. Okay. All right, sorry. Can everyone see one? But so it is $2 million is roughly the project's estimate at this moment, of which the FAA has pledged $1.9 million to go to it. It is a nationwide program, so general aviation airports across the nation are competing for these funds. Last year, I think there was 2 airports in Ohio that received funds, general aviation funds. Prior to that, I think there was 1 or 2 the previous year. So it is select company. It is something that sort of could be a boom to the airport a little bit, to be able to provide that gateway to the community. People flying in are serviced out of a terminal that is more modern and can meet the current needs of the airport right now. On this picture, we love to use a little bit of color, but it's kind of the entirety of what we're talking about. It isn't just the terminal building itself that needs to be replaced. The taxiway there in orange that we're talking about is the reason why the existing terminal building and the taxiway as shown there are just too close together. There isn't enough clearance to get a plane through there. And so the intent would be to, one of the ideas that is currently being talked about is what I show here, that where we would build a new terminal further away from the runway, further away from the taxiway, and reconfigure that area right as you sort of enter the airport with a bigger parking lot, some terminal, that sort of thing. So it's one of the many ideas that we're proposing right now. I think Kevin's going to get the Airport Commission back together to talk about some ideas, but we will need movement on this in the near future, and so we'll be gathering our thoughts, gathering the pricing, and coming back and having that discussion with you guys in the near future about what's the local need and that kind of thing. But it is great news. I mean, it is a positive sort of investment in the community from the FAA. So any questions? It kind of, there's a lot there, but.
So we're going to be responsible for part of it, right?
Correct.
Out of the 2 million?
Correct.
They're going to pay for 1.9 million?
They're
So
covering, the grant that we received was 1.9 million. When the grant was submitted, we didn't go through all the motions of fully designing the terminal. We estimated sizing and what would be in it, that sort of thing, of which the FAA takes the floor plan, the proposed floor plan, and breaks it into pieces that are FAA eligible and then pieces that are not. Things like an office where a single person would, Kevin's office in the terminal building would not be eligible because that is seen as a single person space. All of the public space, the space that anyone can get to, the bathrooms, the main areas, the lounges, anything that would be in this building would all be covered by the FAA. And so that portion, they've estimated to be 85% of the cost would be eligible to be FAA funded out of the total piece.
Okay, I think anything you do out there is great. I'm totally 100% behind you.
Yeah.
But as far as finance,
So
you're looking at 100,000 coming from the city maybe, roughly?
yes, we're still working through those details, and we would
Okay.
definitely come with the full picture, so we're not, giving you a false number. We're really gonna, number one, find the right location. Number two, size it appropriately. There obviously is a wealth of, from a small shed to a very high-end building. There's quite a range of what could be in there, and so the intent would be to right size it to the community, to the airport, make it look like it fits. We don't want to build an over-the-top building that doesn't fit the area, or something that just doesn't serve the overall purpose of the airport long-term. Because without this money, I think the building would be there for another 50 years and probably falling apart and really not being in a great service to the airport or the community in that regard.
Thank you for your input.
Yeah.
Did you say we have applied for this 2 million and we were awarded it?
We were selected. This money is sort of, has your name written on it. We haven't signed anything. There has been no agreements put in place or anything like that. It is something where you apply and you really, you buy the lottery ticket, you hope for the money, and in this case, it was awarded and it's there. We have until July to make sure it gets under grant. So we are working through the different components, making sure we locate it in the right place, size it correctly, and then, do some price cost estimating and ultimately get something designed and bid by July.
I'm assuming that the airport commission has approved this.
That is they have seen this. We met a couple weeks ago. There was more conversations to be had about a lot of the details of what's going on there. But yes, they've been involved in all these conversations.
Mr. Myers?
I'd like to make a motion to refer the airport terminal program to finance and service. That way, when they do come back to us, it's an open project ready to be discussed.
Second.
Mr. Myers made the motion. Mr. Me seconded to refer the airport upgrades to finance and service. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It has been referred.
Any other questions or anything?
I do have one question. Are you guys going out and find these grants yourself? Or you got another company helping you find these grants, or?
It is, most of these grants are publicly available, sort of in the federal registries. That is what we do. We are an aviation firm that we focus on, helping airports throughout the state and beyond, securing these grants and then administering them, et cetera.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to have permission for visitors to speak. If there's any visitors that would like to address council, please come to the podium, state your name and address.
Greg White, 1125 Hillcrest Drive. Thank you, Mr. President. As a citizen of this community, I'm appalled by some members of this council. Your inability to conduct the business of the city is totally out of control. You would rather continue to feed the drama going on than act like professional elected officials of our community. You don't want people to know that there's a major problem with the insurance for the employees of this city. So what is going on? How did a certain citizen get private, non-public information on this, then post it on her Facebook page? Is there a leak within our government? The budget was put on hold because of this, and now people are scrambling to see what is going to go on. Will the city have enough money money coming in. What is going to get cut from next year's budget? Police officers, reduced hours of city employees, services, the pool, or what? Then you have the firefighters' contract expiring on December 31st. How much of that is going to cost the city? The majority of them make between $85,000 and over $100,000 per year for a population around 13,000 people. That's insane. What about the failed property tax for the safety forces equipment? Council's not talking about this at all. Why? Are you going to come after the income tax credit? Most of you are fixated on only one issue. It's like a personal vendetta for some, and this issue has been front and center for months now. The same people coming up saying the same thing over and over again. I feel that some of you relish the fact that you like this type of behavior, yet you do nothing to put this issue to rest. Why not talk about a contract or agreement on this issue? What's the holdup on this matter? As you know, all of you took an oath in January in front of a judge, but you don't uphold this oath that you swore to. Are you making rules as you go? The heck with Chapter 111 and the rules of procedures. Some of you are doing whatever you want. And if it's not to your liking, you become raging maniacs. If a certain council member does not want to hear someone talking or on a subject matter, and is tired of hearing that someone has to say, you violated their rights for this. But you don't try to shut the other people down for the BS that they dispel. Even on November 4th, during council meeting, Mr. Meade brought up the thing about what is if people are allowed to speak. Law directors spoke and stated, as long as they don't believe the public becomes disorderly, they would forfeit their rights to speak. Yet time and time again, people are told to come to the podium to speak to council or the committee and not the audience. This person makes it a point, which is all on video, for people not to speak from or to the audience, and even made a city official get up multiple times to this issue. Now it's okay to speak from the table of the audience? Okie dokie. This person also is the chairman of the ad hoc committee for the rules of council, which has gone nowhere so far this year. Then makes the statement that the committee will not meet until the new law director is named. Well, the city has a new law director. What's holding up now? This past committee meetings, the S show showed its true colors. This same person didn't want the rules to be followed, never said a word, even took pleasure in this type of behavior, even participated in this outlandish total violation of council rules. Remember, it's on tape. So the rules are only in play when you want them? Don't get me wrong, everyone has a right to speak. But don't be rude, disrespectful, impolite, ill-mannered, or obnoxious. Sit there and keep your mouth shut until the person is done. If you don't like what the person is saying, get up and leave the room, just like a former council member did when someone was talking at a podium. Please do not make a public apology for your actions. It means nothing. It's just words that you don't mean. You're just trying to save your name in this community, and it doesn't work that way. This council and its members should be held accountable for all these actions and violations. More people are watching the S show and now reaching over 10,000 reviews. If you want to become a drama queen or king, I suggest you head to Broadway. Thank you.
Max Miller, 135 East Kilbourne Drive. After I was done speaking 2 weeks ago, Mr. Fankhauser, you stated, quote, "For the record, I don't know what half of the stuff he was talking about." Okay, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I was speaking too fast. After the meeting, I approached the railing to ask which half of what I said didn't you understand. I was happy to clarify or elaborate on anything you were confused about. You turned your head and refused to even look at me. Mr. Citizens for a More Transparent Bucyrus himself. The public watched you give two people who voiced their concerns clown masks and wigs at the committee meetings 2 weeks ago. That was pretty childish and also pretty weird that you just had multiple clown costumes on you, for the record. This is what I meant when I said you only want to hear from people that agree with you. Criticism and accountability come with the job. If the oven is too hot for you, then you got to get out of the kitchen, man. You say that you're being personally attacked anytime somebody comes up here and disagrees with you, calls out your antics, or dares to ask why you won't sign a contract for internet with the city, or why you still need access to the cameras you say you donated. Speaking of, I read your letter in the council packet, and it's interesting to hear you deem the donated items and services as non-important. Others disagree and would like more clarity on the situation. I'm not sure how your donated cameras are, quote, helping the city stay afloat in these tight budget times when, as I understand it, if your cameras weren't up, the city wouldn't be looking to pay someone else to put them up and monitor them. So I'm not sure where we're saving money there. Also, why would the Health and Safety Committee or the Public Lands and Buildings Committee be discussing the city's financial issues? In order for something to be on the agenda and discussed during the committee meetings, doesn't it need to be referred from full council for it to be on the agenda? Seeing some head nods, okay. So all three of the committees you referenced wouldn't have even been able to discuss it at the November 7th committee meetings anyways. And in my opinion, you're probably a part of the reason why the safety levy force has failed. You've been saying since the start of the year how bad the city's finances are, but then you wanted the city to buy an old building with, at best, a concept of a plan before we even had the money from the other real estate sales, and citizens took notice of that. I give you props to you for waiting at the courthouse for the election results, but the results will still be there the next morning. I don't really think that shows that you care more than anybody else up here. I've had people tell me they'd like to come and speak at meetings, but they know that the council president or one of his associates have contacted or provided contact information for people's employers or schools to try and get them fired or thrown out. How messed up is that? A citizen comes up here to, as Mr. White likes to say, exercise their constitutional First Amendment rights, and then Mr. Fankhauser or his cronies try to go after their livelihood or education to silence or intimidate them. Or as we saw the other week, a new low of calling constituents clowns. The mayor had to apologize for your actions, and to my knowledge, you still haven't. You know, you got your start in politics by coming here to these very meetings and critiquing former Mayor Reeser. Now when the roles are reversed, you don't like it. I haven't looked up the definition of a hypocrite in a while, but if the clown shoe fits. For Mr. Fankhauser, it's rules for thee and rules for me. You think you're above having to follow council rules and procedures as evidenced by when you said nobody will care about the rules in 50 years. People do care that you do things the right way. People care about how you treat people. You know, I've had a conversation with Mr. Me after council meetings where we, agree to disagree. Mr. Myers and I don't agree on everything under the sun. We can have a civil conversation with differing viewpoints. I believe I'm able to, and have talked to almost every single person up here except Mr. Gobricht, as you're fairly new and haven't had the pleasure yet, or Mrs. Shireman, because frankly, you're never really here. I think most of the city council members up here have the city's best interest at heart. From what I can see, though, my perspective, Mr. Fankhauser and Mrs. Shireman seem to be the main roadblocks to moving the city forward and continue to contribute to the circus these meetings have become. I'm tired of coming up here, to be honest. I'd rather be home with my family watching the Cavs go for 16-0 tonight right now. But the people of Bucyrus deserve better than this, so here I am. I'm going to ask for both of you, Mr. Fankhauser and Mrs. Shireman, stop the circus, leave your costumes at home, and just do your jobs. But if you can't, then resign and get someone in here that can listen to citizens' concerns and engage in a respectful dialogue. I got 50 seconds before I relinquish the rest of my time. Are there any questions? Is there anything you didn't understand about what I said this time?
Could I respond to him, Mr. President?
We're not doing any response to the speakers.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Go Cavs. Thanks for your time.
Is there anybody else who would like to address council?
Yeah, Gary Miller, 800 Rogers Street. This will be short and sweet. I'm not going to get any answers, so I'm just going to lay this out there. I don't know whether this needs to go to committee or what. This is concerning the deduction in Mrs. Shireman's pay that was supposed to be 3 approved. They had 3 unexcused that were supposed to be done. This is the letter I got from the auditor. Dear Bucyrus Auditor, please deduct 2% of the annual salary of the next pay period for the following council member per ORC 705.13 for the following missed, unexcused, regular council meetings listed below. There's one date, 9/17. She said that's all she got from you. Now there were 3 dates, 7/23, 9/17, and 10/1 that were supposed to be turned in with that. Mr. Gobrick, you were supposed to be checking on an 8/20 meeting that Mr. Hickman annulled, and you said you wanted to check to make sure that it was properly done. You're not going to answer me probably, but I don't know whether that's been done or not, so that would be number 4. And I've also got a question. The 11/4 meeting was unexcused. That would be number 5, and I don't know for sure if the 11/7 meeting, which was a special council regular meeting, if that counts as a meeting or not. Like I say, no one's going to address me, so if that needs to go to committee to be investigated or whatever, I don't understand why you didn't turn the 3 days in that they talked about here when they asked you to. You told me that you wanted to make sure your letter was written properly and you wanted to have Mr. Gilbert go over it. Then you texted me and told me you took care of it. Luckily, someone asked me, well, did you check on that to make sure he did? Well, no, I took his word that he did, but you only turned in for 1 day. So why you did not turn in for 3 is unknown to me. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Any other public participation? Seeing none, we will move on to communications and petitions with a letter from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control.
Dated November 13th, 2024. Dear Clerk of the Legislative Authority, all Class C and D retail permits to sell alcoholic beverages in your political subdivision will expire on February 1st, 2025. In order to maintain permit privileges, every permit holder must file an online renewal application with the division. Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.271B provides the legislative authority with the right to object to the renewal of a retail permit and to request a hearing. The hearing may be held in the county seat of the county in which the permit premises is located if that request is made in writing. This will be your only opportunity to object to the renewal of a liquor permit premises, which might be a problem in your community. In order to register a valid objection with the Division of Liquor Control and request a hearing, the legislative authority must pass a resolution that specifies the problems at the liquor permit premises and the legal grounds for the objection as set forth in Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.292A. We suggest that a separate resolution be passed for each permit premise. The chief legal officer of your political subdivision must also submit a statement with the resolution that, in their opinion, the objection is based on a substantial legal grounds within the meaning and intent of the Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.29A. The resolution and chief legal officer statement must be sent by email below or mailed to the Division of Liquor Control. Attention, Legal Section 6606 Tussing Road, P.O. Box 4005, Reynoldsburg, Ohio 43068-9005, and postmarked no later than January 2nd, 2025. You may wish to contact the law enforcement agency for your jurisdiction to determine if it has any information which will aid your decision whether or not to object and request a hearing. You can find retail permit holders within your jurisdiction by going to com.ohio.gov/find a permit holder and select your city, township name where asked and issued under class issue status. For more information and other ways to deal with problems establishments, including a copy of the text of this letter, go to com.ohio.gov/govhelp. If you determine that there are no permit premises within your jurisdiction that you wish to object to, you do not need to take any further action. The renewal applications for those premises will be submitted by the permit holders and will be processed by the division as appropriate. If you have any questions, please contact the legal section at liquorlegal@com.ohio.gov. And you can sign up for their emails at com.ohio.gov/stayinformed.
Mr. Goldberg, would it be appropriate to refer this to health and safety?
I'd like to make that motion to refer the liquor permit renewals to health and safety.
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers made the motion, Ms. Scher seconded to refer the Ohio liquor permit letter to health and safety. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That has been referred. Next, we have another letter from Wavelength Communications LLC.
Mr. President, you need to give the gavel to the pro tem if you're going to read that.
I'll let Miranda read it.
If it's going to be read, you have to give it to the pro tem. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll read it. We have a letter from a Wavelength Communications LLC, 1675 South Sandusky Avenue, Bucyrus, Ohio, 44820. sent to Bucyrus City Council, 500 South Sandusky Avenue, Bucyrus, Ohio, 44820, dated November 18, 2024. Bucyrus City's looming financial crisis. Dear Bucyrus City Council, as a local business and employer in the area, I find it disappointing that this Bucyrus City Council, and specifically the Finance Committee, Health and Safety Committee, and Public Lands and Buildings Committee, are not discussing the serious issue of the city's looming financial crisis, and instead discussing non-important topics such as donated items and donated services to the city from this business. The city had a safety levy on the November 5th ballot for essential equipment for the police and fire departments, and I never seen any serious efforts to get the levy passed. I might have seen less than 10 signs placed around town and a small, short article in the Telegraph Forum, but no article in the Crawford County Now. Parenthesis, I have found out that the reason there was no article in the Crawford County Now was due to the lack of the Finance Committee chair proactively reaching out to the Crawford County Now, end parenthesis. Then on election night on November 5th, I was the only city official at the courthouse waiting to hear the elections results on this levy. Am I the only one that cares about making sure the city is going to have necessary funding for its budget for the next 5 years? The 2025 budget is fastly approaching, and council seems to be just sitting with their heads in the sand, trying to ignore reality. After the levy failed on November 5th, there were committee meetings on November 7th, and not a single mention of the levy failing, but yet there was extensive discussion on donated services from this business. The reality is that the donated services from this business are helping the city stay afloat in these tight budget times, yet certain council committees seem to be on a rampage to spend, to have other vendors come in and provide the exact services that the city is receiving for zero cost. This does not make any sense. With the failure of the equipment levy, the city needs to seriously consider selling the 100 acres of the Pines Reservoir. Land is selling at extremely high rates right now in Crawford County, sometimes between $10,000 and $20,000 per acre. That city-owned land could potentially be worth $1 or $2 million, and that money could be spent elsewhere on other city properties, or potentially even on police or fire equipment that the levy was going to pay for. This could save taxpayer money and potentially even keep the city from having to run another levy. Will council do the right thing and put that property in committee to discuss a possible sale at public auction? Let's hope for the taxpayers' sake that they will. Over the next several weeks, we're going to see reality finally hit this council head on. The 2025 budget is going to be the tightest budget that the city probably has ever faced. I encourage the citizens to attend these budget meetings. Sadly, I think some really tough decisions are going to have to be made that these council committees spent a whole year in denial about. Specifically, the Finance Committee's lack of having a plan if the levy did not pass. When your taxes go up or your services go down, everyone needs to remember who was on council for the years leading up to this point. Sincerely, Kurt Fankhauser, CEO, Wavelength Communications, LLC.
For the record, I have prepared a 6-point response to your letter, Mr. Fankhauser. Number one, the committees could not, as Mr. Max Miller stated, could not discuss the levy because once the legislation was passed requesting the levy be placed on the ballot, it was no longer an open project. Today is the first opportunity to refer it to committee, and I fully intend to do that this evening. Comparing it to discussing topics such as donated items and donated services is truly comparing apples to oranges. Number 2, as far as you not seeing any serious efforts, there was a committee that met here weekly, including the auditor, the service director, members of both the police departments and fire departments, as well as members of the public. Number 3, you state that the reason that Crawford County Now did not run an article was because the Finance Committee chair did not reach out to them. For starters, I contacted what I believe to be the only legitimate news source in town, the Telegraph-Forum. I had a sit-down with Zach Tuggle, who published an article about the levy. You have continually weaponized Crawford County Now against myself and others for some time now. I have no reason to talk with them. With that being said, I did compile information for the committee to discuss with Crawford County Now. I believe the auditor and another committee member reached out to them with no response. Maybe your criticism could be directed at them for failing to respond. Number 4, just because members of council or the administration were not at the Board of Elections on election night does not mean that they did not follow the results. I myself was receiving updates from someone who was there. I assure you that contrary to your opinion, you are not the only one that cares about the city having necessary budget funding. Number 5, the failure of the levy does not necessitate selling property. In fact, I believe you spoke out against selling other properties just a month ago. And number 6, there is no lack of a plan. Knowing that the residents of the city are frustrated and fed up with this council, I'm not at all surprised of its failure. We are preparing to discuss the 2025 budget, and the plan is to do what we do every year, and that is to look at the income, look at the expenses, make sure those things align, and making cuts where necessary and available. Is there any objection from council to relinquishing the gavel?
Mr. President.
Okay, I need a motion to accept and file the communications and petitions.
I'd like to request that we do them separately.
I'll second that.
There has been a motion made to accept and file the letters separately. Well, to have separate votes to accept and file the letters. Is there any discussion on the motion of accepting and filing, or asking to accept and file for votes separately? Is there any discussion? Okay, at this time, we are going to have a roll call vote.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
No.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me.
Yes. Okay, so now it's been passed that we are going to have a separate vote on each letter to accept and file. For the letter from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control,
I'd like to make a motion to accept and file the letter from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control.
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers made the motion to accept and file the letter from Liquor Control. Ms. Sherrick seconded. Now going to call for a roll call vote.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
No.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me.
Yes. It passes, so the letter from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control is going to be accepted and filed. Now for the letter from Wavelength Communications LLC. I'm going to ask for a motion to accept and file.
I motion. I first.
Is there a second?
I second it. That should be on the record, I believe.
Ms. Shireman made the motion. Mr. Moritz seconded to accept and file the letter from Wavelength Communications LLC. We will now proceed to have a roll call vote.
Myers?
No.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
No.
Hickman?
No.
Me.
Yes. So it passes on a 4-3 vote to accept and file the letter from Wavelength Communications LLC. We are going to now move on to standing committee reports. Plating Committee Mr. Me.
Planning Committee. We discussed quite a bit of stuff last meeting. On this next meeting on 11/21/2024, we're going to have solar panels, ponds, food trucks, resurfacing 1189, sidewalks, and I'd like to keep 316 and 320 Woodlawn on the books. Right now, it's in the Planning Commission, and that's the end of my report.
Any questions for the Planning Committee Chair? Seeing none. Public Lands and Buildings Chair, Ms. Sherrick.
Nothing at this time.
Any questions for the Public Lands and Buildings Chair? Seeing none, moving on, Health and Safety Chair, Mrs. DeShawn.
No report at this time.
Any questions for the Health and Safety Chair? Seeing none, Finance Committee Chair, Mr. Myers.
No report.
Any questions for the Finance Committee? Seeing none, Economic Development Chair, Mr. Hickman.
On November 7th, Matthew Tway of Bucyrus's Goodwill held a coffee and conversations, which me and Mr. Moritz had attended. A lot of good information from that meeting, as well as a lot of things I didn't know that Goodwill did. They have a lot of economic building tools at their disposal, as well as they have a lot of job opportunities and a lot of job opportunity programs. I would recommend that if anyone is having any problems with finding a job or finding training for jobs, they would probably be the first persons I would go to. The Tourism Advisory Council met on November 12th, 2024. There we discussed the marketing campaign for the fall and Apple social media campaign. We had 419,478 reaches through ads. The homepage had 7,000 unique visitors, and the fall campaign video reached a milestone of 112,000 views in total. We sat in discussion and review of all of the tourism related activities that we did this year, or that was done this year. And we discussed upcoming holiday events. The Bucyrus Historical Society open house is December 1st. The Old Fashioned Christmas at the Harvey One Room Schoolhouse is also December 1st. Bucyrus Area Chamber of Commerce Candlelight Christmas is December 5th, and from what we were told, the FC Bank is bringing back the ice rink. Bucyrus Historical Society is going to be open during Candlelight Christmas on the same day, and Christmas at Pickwick is being held on December 7th. The law director did reach out to me and asked about Bucyrus's partaking in the 250th birthday of America, and let it be known that Bucyrus is an official 250 America Commission City. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. This commission meets each quarter, and so far we have not put together any plans, but neither has the state. So that is being worked on, and I will bring updates to that when updates are available. That is the end of my report.
Any questions for Economic Development Committee? Ms. Sherrick?
No, Mr. Moritz had pointed, I wasn't sure if he...
That was me pointing. There's also Wednesday, November 20th, Partnership has a meet and greet at the Tap House.
Yes, I forgot about that. Thank you.
Any other questions for Economic Development? Just, if you can hear the speakers in the back, just kind of raise your hand. They should be working. Okay, just want to make sure. We got them fixed a couple meetings ago. Service Committee Chair, Mr. Moritz.
Yep, we're still going to keep hammering on the Title IX stuff. Mr. Long, Senate just had their third reading of Ohio Bill 93, which I know you were particularly interested in, from legislation that we're going to have passing here. That might change but the city does, because they're over top of us, so didn't find out that passed or not, or if it's going past the third reading or not, but that might be something to look in, see if it passed or not. House Bill 93.
Thank you.
That's
Is that the end of your
it for
report?
me, yeah.
Any questions for Service Committee?
So we're not sure if 93 passed or not.
No, I don't know yet. It was this morning at
It's
10.
just the third reading, it hasn't gone.
No, yeah, it's
before
the third reading,
legislature
right,
yet.
right,
Okay,
the third reading.
sorry, I'm interested in it too.
Any other questions for Service Committee? Seeing none, moving on. Special Ad Hoc Committee for Rules of Procedure chaired by Mrs. DeShawn.
Yesterday, I sent an email to Council Clerk Wise, stated as follows: Miranda, please check the availability of committee members Hickman, Moritz, Sherrick, and Shireman for attending a meeting of the above captioned committee on Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. prior to the 7 o'clock p.m. regular scheduled council meeting. It's my understanding that Ms. Wise is still waiting to hear back from some of the committee members as to whether they are going to be available or not. And I won't know until if we have a quorum, if the meeting's going to be able to be held.
I let her know the day.
So you waved and said you're coming?
Why talk to her today?
Okay. May I ask Aaron and Carolyn?
I have to talk to my doctor first.
Okay, then, let's see, we've got, let me check here. I know that Zion, you had responded yes. Moritz says yes. Sherrick says yes. I say yes. Mrs. Shireman needs to talk with her doctor, so we have a quorum. So our next ad hoc meeting will be held on Tuesday, December the 3rd, 2024 at 5:15 p.m. And I noticed that it appears that Mr. White left, and he was wondering what I was doing about a meeting, so hopefully someone will pass that information on to him. Thank you. End of my report.
Any questions for that Ad Hoc Committee? Is Mrs. DeShawn, is Mrs. Shireman still on that committee?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you guys had voted to put her off and put Sherrick on instead.
I don't know if Law Director Gobrick would like to address that question at this time.
Sure. So the ad hoc committee will have to vote to remove Councilwoman Shireman from it, at which point she will be able to defend herself, at which point there will be a final vote. She'll have the opportunity to appeal it to full council at that point. Full council will make their decision. So you can't vote to have someone removed from committee unless it originates in that committee. As a result, she was never properly removed. However, the appointment of Councilwoman Sherrick to that committee stands on its own.
Thank you for the explanation. That clarified it for me. I was not aware that something had transpired that Mrs. Shireman, until right now, I was under the understanding she had been kicked off the committee.
May I say something? I can go back to 2 different council meetings a week apart. Jim Mee took me out of his during a council with no vote. And a week after that, Vicki DeShawn did the very same thing at a council that Jim Mee did.
So does that?
So it is on
remember
the record.
The property maintenance committee that Mrs. Shireman was on as well.
Correct.
Is that?
So that is the same explanation.
Okay.
And if
No harm, no foul, it just doesn't take effect because we have a 14th Amendment.
There's a proper
process.
procedure that has to be gone through, and we didn't know it at the time, but
But
now
I
we do.
did.
And as soon as I was aware that a proper procedure, you were questioning the proper procedure, I then contacted Attorney Grobrick, and as soon as he explained to me what the proper procedure was, I'm following it.
I really didn't ask for your opinion.
Okay, let's keep it civil.
And if I may state, so that everybody knows, that at the December 3rd, 24 special ad hoc committee meeting, on the agenda will be the removal of Mrs. Shireman from that committee. So we are giving her, or I am giving her notice at this time that will be on the committee. So that gives you 2 weeks to prepare, I guess you would say, your defense
I'm
as
sorry,
to why
but
you
my
feel.
lawyer already has
Vicki
his
still has the
suit.
floor.
Oh.
Vicki still has the floor.
Okay.
Are you done, Vicki?
Did everyone hear what I was trying to say before?
Mhm, loud and clear.
Please repeat it, Vicki.
That
They didn't hear it.
on Tuesday, December the 3rd, 24, special ad hoc committee meeting, on the agenda, one of the items will be to entertain the removal of Mrs. Shireman from that committee. So at this time, this is notice to Mrs. Shireman. That will give her 2 weeks to gather whatever information she wants to present as her defense as to why she feels she should not be removed.
Can I
I don't
acknowledge?
know that any response is necessary
Well,
right now.
there is for, I can't respond to this.
You can give her the floor.
I can't, Mr. President, I cannot
hold on,
respond,
Carolyn.
no, wait. I can't
Carolyn.
respond because the attorney has
Carolyn,
this.
you're out of order. Mr. Myers has called a point of order, and I must rule on the point of order at this time. He called a point of order that you didn't have the floor, and he was correct. So
That's good. Thank you.
we're going to move on
Thank you.
to the Special Ad Hoc Property Maintenance Committee that Mr. Me is the chair of.
Well, I guess I'll be contacting Miranda for a date to get everybody together for the removal of Mrs. Shireman off the ad hoc committee. Other than that, no report.
Any questions for the Special Ad Hoc Property Maintenance Committee? Seeing none. Moving on to Special Ad Hoc Committee for Zoning Map, Mr. Me.
I wasn't here at the last meeting and Mike's not here, so I would say no report.
Any questions for the Zoning Ad Hoc Committee? Seeing none. Traffic Commission, Mayor Trucca.
No report.
Any questions for Traffic Commission?
Mr. President, I move to accept the committee reports collectively.
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers has made a motion to accept all the committee reports collectively. Ms. Sherrick seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? They are accepted. Report of city officers, Mayor Trucca.
Thank you, Mr. President. The administration would like to announce the 2025 Home Energy Assistance Program, which is HEAP. Winter Crisis Program has been added to our website for citizens interested in partaking in the program. The HEAP Winter Crisis Program started November 1st, 2024, and will end on March 31st, 2025. Please see our website for more information. The restoration contractors for Omni Fiber will be in Bucyrus to finish grading and seeding the lawn areas for the year. This will be done prior to the installation of any further fiber optics in the area of the city of Bucyrus. Thank you.
Any questions for the mayor? Moving on, Safety Service Director's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Westler Engineering has been scheduled to come and speak at the Service Committee meeting on Thursday, November 21st, 2024. It was brought to my attention that the U.S. EPA consent degree Phase 2 was removed from the Service Committee open projects list. Therefore, I would like to refer the water treatment plant construction to the Service Committee. This is being done so that the Service Committee can engage and ask questions of Whistler Engineering on Thursday. The administration has worked with the insurance committee to come up with an insurance policy that the city and the employees can work with. We are interested in entering into a contract with Fidelity Group for 2025 health insurance for the employees of the city of Bucyrus. This matter will need to be referred to the Finance Committee for further discussion. Board of Control will meet on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024 at 10 a.m. for the purpose of the bid opening for the Osceola water line. All non-emergency offices will be closed November 28th and 29th in observation of Thanksgiving holiday. Trash pickup for Thursday, 28th, 2024 will be picked up Wednesday, November 27th, 2024. Trash pickup for Friday, November 29th, 2024 will be picked up Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Administration has recently met with the ASME union for a contract negotiations. I would like to request that council go into executive session to further discuss this matter. Respectfully submitted, Tom Meek. Thank you.
Any questions for Service Committee?
Mr. President.
I mean, the Safety Service Director.
Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Myers.
I'd like to refer the insurance to the Finance Committee and the water treatment plant, or wastewater treatment plant to the Service Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers made a motion to refer insurance to Finance Committee and wastewater treatment plant construction to service. Ms. Sherrick seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President,
Mrs. DeShawn.
I'm not sure if I say point of order, but I will say point of order. In our chapter 111, Council Rules of Council, section 111.15 states voting required exception. It goes on to say, upon every call of the yeas and nays, every member present shall vote unless unanimously excused. Mrs. Shireman has not voted. Well, she did not vote this time, so I won't discuss the other times that she's not voted at tonight's meeting because I should have done a point of order at that time, but I wanted to check the chapter 111 to make sure that I was doing this properly. So
I'm going to take that as you just called a point of order, so I'm going to make a ruling on it. And I truly believe this is a situation that the council could really benefit from us starting to use the unanimous consent stuff.
No. Do
So-
the roll call. And that way, you're called, you have to vote.
Or abstain.
Correct, abstain, yes. Kurt, we have already had this discussion about what it is you've been wanting to do. A couple meetings ago, I politely asked that we not do this, and that from that meeting on, we continue to do what we've always done. Which, yays, nays, or at some of the committee meetings, we've been doing the roll call vote. Either way, I'm fine with either one of those, but the point is, every member present needs to vote, and that's not happening. Now, I will admit, there have been times that I have totally forgot, and I've sat here and thought, oh my gosh, in fact, I think at one of the meetings I said, oh, I meant to vote. I'm sorry, I didn't. I personally do not feel that that is the situation that is occurring here. We are just flat out not voting.
So it's my decision. On how votes are taken, because it's not specified in the 111. If I want to call for the unanimous consent option, I am running this meeting, I have the right to do that. I know you have voiced an objection about it, however, I continually have been told for years the council president's job is to run the meeting. Since it's not specified in the 111, that falls on Robert's Rules of Orders, and I would be well within my right to call for votes that way. So, back to the point of order that you called. You called the point of order, and for the type of vote that was taken on the referrals, you are correct. It does state in the 111 that all members have to vote. So you are correct, Vicki, in this one point of order. So that is my ruling on that point of order. You are correct on that. So we're going to have to redo the vote on the referral of the wastewater treatment plant construction to service and the 2025 the insurance to finance. All in favor of those referrals, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
Sustain.
Wait a minute.
It is
My
passed.
point of order had to do with the accepting, correct me if I'm wrong, and now I'm getting confused here. Your motion was to,
Refer the insurance to finance and wastewater treatment plant.
okay, I apologize, okay.
Vicki, I accept your apology. Moving on to the law director's report, Mr. Gilbert.
So are we going to continue, though, to go back and do that? Did we do the voting?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we did.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
You didn't vote.
And I didn't vote, yes, because I'm sitting here.
We have to have another vote.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Mr.
May I
Myers.
request a roll call vote?
Second.
Mr. Myers has requested a roll call vote for the referral of the wastewater treatment plant construction to service committee and the insurance to finance committee. And it was seconded by Ms. Sherrick, so we're going to have a roll call vote right now.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Sharman?
Abstain.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
The referral passes. So now we're going to move on to the law director's report, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, I would like to remind council that the point of order rules can be found in Robert's Rules of Order on page 233. I suggest you use them more. As for my report, since the last council meeting, I'm pleased to announce that I have prosecuted the first jury trial on behalf of the city of Bucyrus in my role and have secured a conviction. Aside from that, I have some thoughts that I would like to read into the record. Greetings of the day. This current situation and with council, citizens, and the administration is getting completely out of hand. I have some thoughts and opinions on the matter, which I believe ought to be said publicly. I've been doing the civil law director job for just shy of 3 months now, and I have seen some very troubling things in an incredibly short period of time. I was dropped into a situation fraught with drama, schoolyard taunts, and petty conduct. The situation appeared to level off there for a couple of weeks, but the situation is becoming inflamed again. Efforts were made attempting to bring everyone together onto the same page and open a dialogue, but it appears that is simply not what people want to do. It seems like people want to fight. This is most evident in the dispute about whether the 5 minutes of initial public participation could be split up based on other people's public participation. People are more interested in responding than they are in listening. I have seen people on the official side of the railing say a bunch of nonsense, and people on the public side of the railing also say a bunch of nonsense. I have heard threats of lawsuits and investigations from both sides. I've heard fist pounding and temper tantrums be thrown all around. I've seen actions be taken out of spite that are beyond the pale from both sides of the railing. What I have not seen is people acting like adults. It is all right to have disagreements with each other. In fact, it is encouraged in a democratic system. I would like to state unequivocally, though, just because you disagree with somebody does not make them your enemy. We are all citizens of the Bucyrus, and at the end of the day, we're all going to sleep in the same town, and we're all going to be waking up in the same town. This is not to say people shouldn't criticize their elected officials. Politics is a contact sport, and any elected position is meant to come with criticism. However, I would like to note that everyone here is trying to do the best that they can to govern the city of Bucyrus. I have not seen anybody in the administration overtly attempt to sabotage the city of Bucyrus in any way. Are some ideas arguably misguided? Ultimately, that's not for me to decide. I'm here to call balls and strikes when it comes to the law. Whether something is misguided is up to the public to speak on, and to do so in a calm and collected manner without resorting to primitive tactics and embarrassing behavior. The flip side of that coin is that the government is supposed to be here to listen to the opinions, comments, and grievances of the public. The public gets to convey these things whether any official likes it or not, and it is beholden on any public official to take criticism with dignity and a certain amount of class. Personal attacks from the public side of the railing are embarrassing and should come to an end. However, any personal attacks coming from the official side of the railing must come to an end, because in my opinion, it is not the place of any official to personally attack any citizen. In that regard, I believe it ought to be a one-way street. Since my time here at the city of Bucyrus, I've seen a lot of folks in this city do things that they don't have to do, for no other reason than to try and better the city of Bucyrus. The mayor is a perfect example. When I came on board, the city was dealing with the YMCA purchase contract debacle. The mayor, in his private capacity, thought that the buyers got a raw deal, or sellers got a raw deal, and that the city ought to have the building. He used his own money to purchase the building and will be donating it to the city of Bucyrus. I watched as the mayor was accused of fallacious and outlandish things that impugned his reputation. Instead of expressing gratitude for the mayor, people attacked him. Nothing was illegal. Everything was above board. He got his own attorney. Everything, I watched it. I checked it. Everything was above board. Besides the mayor, I've seen employees who are postponing retirement due to the city's current situation, while other employees have come out of retirement to offer their assistance. Above and beyond that, someone in the administration gave up a job offer to leave this mess behind, specifically because they believe it is improper to abandon ship while it's sinking. Where'd I go? I have worked with committees, and we are churning out legislation and addressing issues as rapidly as possible. The real upshot to this rapid return on legislation that we're seeing is the fact that council members are devoting considerably more time to these tasks than they should. The role of councilman is supposed to be a part-time job. Look at Vicki DeShawn. She comes prepared. She puts in a lot more effort than is expected of her. It is not just people within the city that have extended a helping hand to the city either. I have seen local businesses try and assist, only to be met with ridiculous insults and disparagement of their business. People will lament as to why nobody wants to run and nobody wants to do anything, but in the very next breath viciously attack anyone who does anything to try to help, whether that be wavelength or otherwise. In my opinion, you do not get to have it both ways. Nobody is going to want to help or stick around or come to the city if they know that the only thing that will happen to them is name-calling and muckraking. As an aside to that point, I would like to address the growing rumor regarding me being, quote, bought and paid for, unquote, and the notion that I have some sense of loyalty to any individual or group because it makes me giggle. I'm not on anyone's side except for the city of Bucyrus. I have said this since day one. I'm an attorney. Nobody typically gets to tell me what to do, and I don't respond well to threats or blackmail. My ethics and morals cannot be purchased. It is important to note that in my private capacity, I'm also an arbitrator and have experience mediating disputes, albeit nothing as melodramatic and petty as this type of situation that the city is currently facing. When I say nothing will get done without a clear and open dialogue between everyone involved, I mean that. I've spent a considerable amount of effort trying to quietly resolve conflict, but it appears that when one conflict is resolved, 3 more conflicts pop up. It is time for everyone to take a breather and relax. Following people home, going after people's employment, going after people's schooling, going after their businesses, etc., and trying to ruin people's lives is just abhorrent behavior, and it disappoints me. At the end of the day, I'm just an advisor to council. My job in this capacity is to call it like I see it, explain the law, and explain the likely consequences of a potential course of action. If I had $1 for every time a client didn't take my advice, I would already be retired and I wouldn't be sitting here. A closing sentiment from my old criminal procedure professor is very on point for this situation. While I don't remember the exact wording, his closing advice for the class was that at the end of the day, all of this stuff is just opinion. Nobody really knows what's going to happen with precedent. Opinions are and should be subject to change. My request is that you apply that sentiment to your thoughts and actions moving forward, and everybody just take a breather so we can get the city sorted out before things deteriorate past the point of no return. Because once it goes past the point of no return, there's no return. Thank you.
Mr. Gobert, I just want to thank you for this letter, and I want to thank you for stepping up and applying for this job, because you could have took a career in the private sector and probably made more than what you're probably going to make as a public official, and you wouldn't have to come to all these evening meetings and deal with all this stuff. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Gobert. I think you're going to go down as one of our best law directors that I'm probably going to see in my lifetime. Does anybody have any questions for the law director?
No questions.
Okay, then.
All right.
We're going to move on to the auditor's report. Ms. Lewis.
The end of October was one of the less stellar months for the city of Bucyrus, though typically this time of year shows a reduction of revenues for income tax anyway. The city is down 21%, or $147,465.79 in gross income tax revenue when comparing November 2023's collections to November of 2024. Still, the city is up 15% overall between 2023 and 2024. Once again, this can be contributed not only to the addition of last year's safety tax levy, but our income tax office has been working with the state attorney general's office to bring in over $200,000 this year. I would like to refer to Finance Committee the creation of a fund for the ODOD grant, which was being monitored in the Waterworks Fund, but I believe it should be monitored in its own separate fund in order not to inflate revenues or expenses in the Waterworks Fund. We typically would have referred to that grant probably more as the TAPS grant. It was running alongside the ARPA grant funding that was coming from the county to expand water lines. And then I'd also like to refer advances and the return of prior advances to clean up the end of the year. Thank you.
Mr. Myers.
I would like to refer the ODOD fund creation to finance, as well as the advances and return of prior advances to finance.
Mr. Myers made the motion for the referral for ODOT grant fund creation.
It's ODOD.
ODOD grant fund creation to finance and advances and return of advances to finance. It was seconded by Mr. Me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
It is passed. It has been referred. Thank you, Ms. Lewis, for this report. It is very concerning of what you highlighted there with that 21% reduction from last year on the November or the end of October income tax revenue. That's just very concerning to me. Do you have any idea why?
We typically, at the end of the year is in flux anyway, and we have a drop in revenue for income tax when it comes in. We might have just had a good November last year, and it kind of looks like that might have been because we were also having the tail end of the Safety Forces Levy Fund because it just taken effect in July. So it was probably catching up with all the payrolls by that point. So that might have been what bumped up last year's October, of 2023.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you for that explanation. Is there any other questions for the auditor? Seeing none, we have a treasurer's report dated October 2024. If I can find it
I'd
here.
like to move to accept and file the treasurer's report for October of 2024.
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers has made a motion to accept and file the treasurer's report from October 24. Ms. Sherrick has seconded the motion. We will have a vote by the ayes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye.
Abstain.
It has passed. We have accepted the treasurer's report from October 2024. There is no report from the police chief. There is no report from the fire chief. So now we are going to move on to the motion to accept city officers' reports.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers has made the motion. Mr. Moritz has seconded the motion. We will proceed to have a vote by the ayes. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say aye. So it passes. The officers' reports have been accepted. Visitors' input regarding reports of standing and special committees and city officers.
Bless you. Thank you.
Is there any visitors' input?
Bless you.
Good evening, Clarissa Slater, 3645 State Route 4. I was just curious, this is from the committees in general. I didn't know, I guess it's more so for Zion, is the AFFO, the All Future Fund Ohio, has that been referred to your committee, Economic Development? I know we discussed it like months ago, so.
Don't believe so, no.
Okay, I just asked if maybe that's discussed in new business today. That was my first note. My second note is that I actually want to issue an apology and just make a broad statement of apology that my information on the insurance commission was inaccurate. My note on that is that I just appreciate if it is discussed with public or friends or in public areas, that if there's something that you're not wanting someone to know or to hear or to be misconstrued, that maybe a little bit more discretion is taken on that matter. So I do apologize that I did not have the up-to-date information on that. I also want to thank, I did have a discussion with Attorney Goberg today. I very much appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. I told you, no here nor there, but some of my concerns and probably of citizens in general would probably have been squashed if that conversation would have happened earlier. Not blaming you, just saying in general. And I also want to thank the mayor for taking the time to discuss that with me as well. I just ask for a little bit of grace, and I am trying to extend this to new people who are just on council as well, that we are all kind of new to this in a way, except for, the select few. I'm new to being a public participant. I'm new to coming up and voicing my opinions and asking for accountability, as you are just as new in representing us as citizens. So, and that goes for anybody who's new on term. So I hope moving forward that I hope to see a lot more cooperation from, I don't know how to explain that, not trying to sound negative, just I'm hoping to see more positive interaction between the public and administration and members of council. So the last thing I'll say is two things can be true at once. Citizens are allowed to bring up nuanced concerns, but they also can be concerned about things like the budget. We are a multifaceted organization as a council is multifaceted. They have different committees. All of these things can be addressed, and I just ask that we just give each other a little bit more grace moving forward, and I hope the second year of, the second half of this election cycle proves fruitful, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clarissa.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the clarification on the insurance thing, and I accept that apology. As much as I would love to offer the grace, only God can offer the grace, so.
Mr. President.
Mr. Myers.
May I ask Mr. Hickman a question?
Yes, you can.
Would you like the AFFO referred to economic development for future discussion?
I don't see why not.
Okay. Given that, I would like to make a motion to refer the AFFO to economic development.
I'll second that.
I would second it.
Mr. Myers has made a motion to refer the AFFO grant to economic development. Mr. Moritz seconded it. All in favor, by a vote of the ayes, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say aye. It has passed. It has been referred. Continuing with public participation at this time.
Okay, now I'm going to do another point of order because we did not vote. That is, Mrs. Shireman did not vote.
Mrs. Shireman, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
I thought I did hear her vote.
Oh,
Thank you.
I didn't hear it.
I
Okay,
apologize.
Mr. Miller, you are free to
Gary Miller,
proceed.
Rogers Street. I would just like to thank Tommy Starner for the fine job that he's been doing. Your customer service is excellent, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
More public participation?
I would like to correct my statement, if I may. I did not hear Mrs. Shireman vote, and I'm seeing some head nodding of other committee members that I do believe agree, but neither here nor there, I did not hear, so I will not say she did not vote.
Maybe I don't talk as loud as you do right now.
Okay, we are going to continue with public participation with
Ken Long, 625 South Spring Street. I want to thank publicly Tommy Starner for providing the splash pad financial information that I've been seeking. The reason I was after that, I want to talk at a committee meeting, I guess with finance, about how we can fix that problem as far as the recirculation. And then the second thing I want to bring up at that same finance meeting, committee meeting, will be the how to keep the pool open also without having to have the public, have a fish fry for it. Yes, we can do something different. So, thank you.
more public participation. Seeing none. Consideration of proposed legislation for the first time.
Proposed Resolution 235-2024, it's the road agreement, authorizing and directing the Public Service Safety Director on behalf of the City of Bucyrus, Ohio, to enter into a contract with the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio Railroad Division not to exceed $21,944 for the enhancement of pavement markings and installation or replacement of signs, and finally authorizing and directing the Bucyrus Auditor to draw a warrant or warrants and payment therefore from the appropriate appropriation or appropriations and declaring an emergency.
The motion to accept as a first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. President.
Mr. Myers.
May I request a roll call vote?
Mr. Myers has made a motion
Second.
to accept the first reading. Ms. Sherrick has seconded it. And I'm going to ask for a roll call vote at this time.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Abstain.
Shireman,
Abstain.
Moritz,
Yes.
Sherrick,
Yes.
Hickman,
Yes.
me.
Yes.
It has passed and has been accepted as a first reading. Public participation, any member of the general public may present their input or comments on legislation that's been read for the first time. Seeing none, referring this back to originating committee, the proposed resolution 235-2024 is back to plating. So plating.
Plating is favorable to proposed ordinance 235-2024 railroad agreement.
Further consideration of pending legislation. For the second and third reading, I propose resolution 235-2024. Do I hear a motion to suspend the rules, waive the reading of the caption and text, and declare an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers made the motion, Mr. Moritz seconded.
Myers.
Yes.
Moritz.
Yes.
Sherrick,
Yes.
Hickman,
Yes.
me,
Yes.
Deshawn,
Abstain.
Shireman.
Abstain.
I don't believe that's enough. to
So we
continue.
need 6 votes to waive the second and third reading, and an abstain vote is essentially a no vote. So it has been held to the first reading. We are moving on. Old and unfinished business.
Mr. President, may I ask the mayor a question?
Yes.
Does that not passing as an emergency take us out of the timeline for this grant?
It's pretty close, yep.
Mr. President, may I make an inquiry?
At this point in time, I would like to call for a recess at 8:27 PM, and I am going to go over to the mayor's office with the law director and service director. We're back from recess at 8:30 PM, and we are at the portion of the meeting which is old and unfinished business.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a
Well,
motion.
that's new, has to be new business.
My apologies, sir.
Old and unfinished business, Mrs. Shire.
May I come to the podium, please?
You can stay there.
I think I'd rather go to the podium.
Does
All right,
anybody
let
object
me-
to Carolyn going to the podium?
Let me interject on how this procedure works. Carolyn, you must request permission to leave the meeting. It must go to a vote. If you are denied, you can leave the meeting without
I'm not
an
leaving
excuse.
the meeting.
If you cross that railing, you're leaving the meeting. Now,
If
you
I
can,
cross what railing? What are you talking about?
if you cross the side into the public domain, you're leaving the meeting. Now, the procedure works like this. You ask to be released from the meeting. You can be granted that permission and it's excused. You can then go up to the podium, you can speak your piece, but then you can't just automatically come back over here. Someone has to make a motion to let you come back in.
So I can read it from my seat here?
I don't think it would be relevant. And even in,
I do.
then you can request the floor. The president can give it to you or not. His decision is subject
Well,
to
I think
appeal
it's
from the
kind
council.
of, it's
But
important.
allow me to finish. Nothing is
do.
stopping you from leaving unexcused and saying your piece at the podium.
No, I'm not leaving my meeting. I'm not
Well,
done.
Mr. Gilbert, so old business, the portion of the meeting that has old business doesn't allow public participation during old business. So if Mrs. Shireman was to leave the meeting, technically, I don't think she would be allowed to be at the podium and speak. Because then she has now turned herself out to be general public, and the general public doesn't have speaking options at the podium during old business. There's no more portions in this meeting that have public speaking in them.
I thought that we were right after the first reading. I thought that we were at
No.
public participation.
No, we're right.
However, if that's the case, then you are absolutely correct.
So if you leave this meeting, Carolyn, you cannot go to the podium and speak.
I don't want to leave the meeting. I just want to address something that was done at council that needs addressed that was not true.
Okay, so you have the floor under old and unfinished business. I'm letting you have the floor right now.
Thank you. What I want to say is, I think it was November 4th at a council meeting. Vicki DeShawn read my quote-unquote doctor's excuse. If I'm not mistaken, I sent my doctor's excuse to you, Kurt, and Miranda told me this morning that you had her send it to the other councils. Am I correct?
Point of order.
Well, what's the point, Mr. Myers?
This is not pertaining to council business.
Yes, it does.
I think it does pertain to council
Yes, it
business, so that's
does.
how I'm going to rule on this. So I will say, because I am partly at fault here, Mrs. Shireman dropped a doctor's excuse note off to my mailbox at my business. I think you had your husband Jim do it. Okay? I did not get that to Miranda by the November 4th meeting. I take full responsibility for that. It got lost in the mail, in my mailbox. So when that thing was read at the one meeting, it was not the right doctor's note. It was an email is what was read.
Can I address
So
that?
then I later on, having realized I found this doctor's note, I then forwarded it to Miranda and she distributed it to the council. I'm not exactly sure which day that was, but it was after the November 4th. Yes, Mrs. Shire.
Miranda, when I talked to you today, didn't you tell me that they had both those, the one I wrote and the doctor's excuse?
Yeah, so the email that you sent to everyone was, everyone was copied in that email, so everyone received that. Mr. Finkhauser had sent me your medical excuse the day after the council meeting, and at which time that I received it, I forwarded it on to all of council as requested by Mr.
Okay,
Finkhauser.
so at the council, when she read that medical excuse, she didn't have the real doctor excuse?
Correct.
Okay, so then I'll go another step farther. I do not think that I gave Vicki DeShawn permission to read my medical excuse to council, to the live feed. I did not tell her to do that, and it is under investigation at HIPAA violation right now.
Now, I will take the floor
Thank
before
you.
anybody says anything else. It's my understanding that you sent an email that was read at City Council by Councilwoman DeShawn. It is my understanding that that also included in the copy, you sent that to a civilian. You sent that to Greg White. So even if there was a theory
I can
that...
send it to whoever I want.
Exactly, which makes it a public record. Which means anyone can read it at any time.
No. No, I did not give her any permission.
She doesn't need your permission.
Yes, she does.
No, she doesn't. and
Okay,
it's-
we'll see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other old and unfinished business?
If I could
We
just
shall see.
clarify,
Mr. Meyer.
public citizens are not bound by HIPAA laws for the record.
I'm not fully aware.
I taught
No,
it,
he's-
I taught it
he's
at the college
100
level for 15 years. It's,
Yes. Councilman Myers is 100% correct in that.
Okay. I'm ready to move on to old and unfinished business.
Thank you.
Any other additional old and unfinished business? Seeing none, new and miscellaneous business?
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to reconsider proposed resolution 235-2024.
Okay, Mr. Myers has made the motion. Is there
I'll
a second?
that. Or Moritz.
I seen Mr. Moritz's finger start to go up first, so Mr. Moritz will have seconded that.
Okay.
I'm going to call for a roll call vote just in case.
Okay. Myers?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yes.
Okay, so now the motion to reconsider has passed, which allows us to back up, and then another motion can be made for the original waiving of the...
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules, waive the reading of the caption and text, and declare it emergency.
I'll second
For the
that.
second and third
For the
readings.
second and third readings.
For Resolution
Proposed Resolution
235.
235-2024.
Okay, Mr. Myers has made that. Ms. Sherrick seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Myers?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Okay. Now do I hear a motion to, so that passes. So now do I hear a motion to adopt proposed resolution 235-2024?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers made the motion, Mr. Moritz seconded.
Myers?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yes.
Resolution 235-2024 is duly adopted. Additional new and miscellaneous business.
Mr. President?
Mr.
I
Myers?
would like to refer the billet and manpower to finance, and I would also like to refer the failed levy options to finance.
Mr.
I'll
Myers
second
has made a
that.
motion to refer the billet and manpower to finance and failed levy options to finance. Ms. Sherrick seconded. All in favor signal by saying aye.
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 All- All opposed signal aye. Okay, that has been properly referred.
Mr. President,
Mrs. DeShawn.
I've been contacted by a constituent. We have discussed this before, but they have some concerns. It has to do with Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 381, the taxi cab licensing. And within that, it's the taxi cab insurance, and it's the $1 million Kevin, I'm going to have you help me on this.
The liability insurance
Yes.
for vehicle insurance.
Yes.
I was going to read it.
I've received an email, and there's the concern that they feel that's too much, that there's taxi cabs or taxi cab service here in town that does not have that, but is operating. And I guess my question is, I know we've talked about this on several occasions. Do we want to refer it back to the Health and Safety Committee?
Are you asking just to lower the dollar amount?
Well, yes, I mean, that's what they're indicating, that this is just, that the dollar amount is such that the premium is,
May I reply?
Yeah.
It's the industry standard for commercial vehicle policies. That's pretty much the starting point for commercial insurance. The committee's already met, the committee's already discussed it, the committee's already requested said legislation. If we have somebody that's operating outside of those confines, I believe that's something that goes to the police department, the law director's office. But in my opinion is no, I don't think it merits any further consideration. I think it fits right within line with where it should be.
Mr. Mayor.
I just recently signed 2 taxi cab licenses, and I questioned it to the police department, and they stated that they were given proof of insurance prior to me signing both of those.
Did you have something, Mr. Gilbert?
No, I was just going to point out that Mr. Churko had raised his hand.
but the proof of insurance Does it state the amount of insurance? Does it state the $1 million that we have in our codified ordinance?
On a typical insurance card, it does not state the liability limit. They would need a declarations page or a other statement that can be provided.
So,
Mr. May?
What is a premium on $1 million policy?
There are so many things that go into deciding that. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It takes into consideration credit history. It takes in driving history, the driving history of the different drivers that are on the policy, age, sex, the vehicle, the year, make, and model of the vehicle, the zip code that you're in can change that. So if you want to, you've got a 2025 pickup truck, that in the 44820 zip code is going to cost one thing, but if you take that to the 43119 zip code, it's going to be something totally different based on history of claims in those zip codes.
Now, I know, Mr. Myers, you said that that's the industry standard is the 1 million, but
As a starting point.
If it's not a state requirement to have the $1 million, you know, should we further burden the situation and make our city have more than whatever the state has?
The state's minimum is $25,000 per person.
So why don't we just not do anything, just let it fall within that?
Because if you are the person on the other end of that person hits, and you suffer any damages to yourself or your vehicle greater than that, that's coming out of your pocket. And this was an area, we can't regulate, you know, Mr. Me's insurance, but we regulate the taxi cabs based on licensure.
But if you're crossing the sidewalk and you get hit by a person with minimum coverage, you're only going to get to 25,000.
That's correct. Because we don't regulate every citizen, but we do regulate the taxi cabs.
I think what Mrs. DeShawn is saying here is she's wanting to explore, since it's not a state requirement to have the $1 million, should we drop it to allow maybe a small business to be able to function more without the governmental red tape? Is that a fair statement, Mrs. DeShawn?
Yes and no. I'm just bringing a constituent's concern that they brought to me. They're a taxi cab driver. They feel that the $1 million...
It's excessive?
Yes.
And I agree.
And so I'm bringing a constituent's concern to council for council to decide if they want to refer it to committee or don't. I mean, I'm not making a decision, or I'm not going to say...
Let's help out the small businesses. Would you like to make that referral, make a motion, Mrs. DeShawn, or to refer that to health and safety again, the taxi cab license requirement?
I understand what you're saying, Kevin. But I'm going to refer it to the Health and Safety Committee. That's my committee.
You want to make the motion?
And yes, I would like to refer the... Is it the right chapter? Chapter, or the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 381, which is entitled Taxi Cab Licensing. And then, of course, under licensing, then it talks about, you know, insurance requirement and what have you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. DeShawn has made the motion. Mr. Me has seconded to refer the 381 taxi cab licensing to the Health and Safety Committee. All in favor? Well, we'll have a roll call vote. Let's do the roll call vote.
Myers?
No.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Sherman?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
No.
Hickman?
No.
Yes.
Okay, it has 4 yes votes, so it is passed. It is referred into Health and Safety.
And I think what I'll do is I will contact this constituent to let them know that it's been referred to committee, and invite them to come to a meeting so that maybe them hearing what the committee has to say, that may help them to understand more why, the reasoning, I don't know. But anyhow, okay.
I personally don't have a problem getting into a taxi cab that only has $25,000 minimum coverage insurance.
Doesn't cover you when you're in the vehicle. Covers you when you are struck
Okay.
by the vehicle.
Okay, so other new and miscellaneous business.
Oh, I have another one, excuse me. Another constituent contacted, and there were others along with her, the peddlers and solicitors law. That's the Bucyrus Codified Ordinance, Chapter 711. And their concern or question is the hour that one can canvass or solicit. Right now, we have that you can solicit, let's see here. Oh, it is unlawful to solicit prior to 9 a.m. in the morning or after 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. And evidently over the weekend, there was AEP or someone, an electrical company that was going around. That was at 6 o'clock at night, though, if I'm understanding the constituent correctly. But they just had posted, on Facebook, they just wondered if maybe this would be something that council, might want to look at. So again, I'm bringing that to the attention of council, whatever, council chooses to, whether it's to put it into committee or not. I've done my part, I think, to bring it to the attention.
What committee do you think that would go in?
Oh, that would go under health and safety. My committee. Or I shouldn't say my committee, the committee that I'm chair of.
Would that go under economic? No. It's health and safety. It is health and safety.
I'm not here. Oh, Mr. Moritz?
I've also had somebody reach out to me too from the public in my ward for the same thing. Someone showing up on Sunday at 8:30 at night. And was concerned it was kind of late hour to have somebody be solicited at their house. Exactly one of the fiber companies here in town.
So I'm gonna wait and see if anybody's gonna make a motion to refer that.
I'll make a motion for it.
I'll second.
Mr. Moritz has made the motion to refer the 711 peddlers to health and safety. Ms. Shireman seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying aye. So that has been referred to health and safety. It's on here, rescheduling of the regular December 5th, 2024 committee meeting. That's the night of the candlelight Christmas, I believe.
I'd like to suggest Wednesday, December 4th, the night prior.
The December 4th, Wednesday. Is that gonna give you enough time, Miranda, to do stuff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to change the date of that meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers has made the motion to change the December 5th committee date to Wednesday, December 4th. Mr. Hickman seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It has passed the December 5th.
I'm just going to
committee
abstain. I didn't, I'm abstaining only because I've been scheduled for some time to be out of town, but I will make different arrangements and I will plan on being here.
Okay, but the very last thing under new miscellaneous business is going to be this executive session, but does anybody have any other new miscellaneous business other than the executive session? Okay, so at this time, executive session, I am asking for a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to discuss the compensation of public employees and/or officials.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22, paragraph G1, regarding compensation of employees and elected officials.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Myers made a motion, Mr. Hickman seconded. Need a roll call vote.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yeah.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
It has passed. We are in executive session at 8:53 PM. Session.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Myers made a motion, Mr. Moritz, roll call.
Myers?
Yes.
DeShawn?
Yes.
Shireman?
Yes.
Moritz?
Yes.
Sherrick?
Yes.
Hickman?
Yes.
Me?
Yes.
We're back out of executive session at 9:18
Mr.
PM.
President.
Mr. Myers?
I would like to make 2 additional referrals, one being the Ask Me Reopener to Finance, as well as the council clerk's wages to Finance. Okay.
Yeah, I need the individual. We'll start with just the Ask Me one.
Okay, my apologies. Ask Me Reopener.
I'll second that.
Mr. Myers made a motion to refer the Ask Me Reopener to Finance. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying aye. The Ask Me Reopener has been referred to Finance.
In addition,
No,
I'd like
hold on,
to-
before you say that,
Okay.
before you say that. Okay, her hiring ordinance is the ordinance that is number 202-2024, so if you want to refer that.
I'd like to refer, is it ordinance 202-2024?
Resolution.
Resolutions.
Resolution.
Okay, Resolution
I'll
202-2024 to Finance.
Mr. Myers made a motion to refer Resolution 202-2024 to Finance. Ms. Sherrick seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying aye. Resolution 202-2024 is referred to Finance. Nobody is absent, so what all referrals do we have?
Okay, we have the wastewater treatment plant construction to service, the health insurance to finance, fund creation for the ODOD grant to finance, advances in return of previous advances to finance. We have the airport grant for the runway upgrades to finance and service committee, airport terminal upgrades to finance and service, liquor permit letter to health and safety, the AFFO grant to economic development, manpower and billet to finance, failed tax levy options to finance, taxi cab licensing or Bucyrus Codified Ordinance 381 to health and safety. Then we have Bucyrus Codified Ordinance 711 or solicitors and peddlers permits to health and safety. We have the Ask Me Reopener to finance and Resolution 202-2024 to finance.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Myers made the motion, Ms. Sherrick seconded the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying aye. We are adjourned at 9:21 PM.